class?
Good morning, Madam of Excellence. How are you?
I am fine. I hope the next story should be ghosts. Yeah, so we are supposed to read that. But at the same time, silence. At the same time, we are supposed to also answer those questions. I think I brought questions. Did you read to them? The next story. Because we did, most of you have done only up to Ivory Bangles. You've not done questions from the truly married woman and talking money. So we need to work on questions on that. So read to them once you get time. And I don't know. I feel like at least we should work through those two stories. That is the questions within this week. So let's read Ghosts, a story by Jimamada Adichie from Nigeria. Then we can proceed. Yeah, come in. Let's start.
Today I saw Ikenna Okoro, a man I had long thought was dead. Perhaps I should have bent down, grabbed a handful of sand and thrown it at him. In the way my people do not mention is not a ghost, but I am a Western educated man, a retired mathematics professor of 71, and I am supposed to have armed myself with enough science to laugh inherently at the ways of my people. I did not throw sand at him. I could not have done so even if I had wished to. Anyway, since we met on the concrete grounds of the university bursary, I was there to ask about my pension. Yet again, good day, Professor. He tried at looking at Oboke, said, sorry, the money has not come in. The other class, whose name I have now forgotten, nodded and apologized as well, while chewing on a pink log of cola nuts. They were used to this. I was used to this. So were the challenged men who were clustered under the flame tree, talking loudly among themselves, gesturing. The education minister has stolen the pension money, one fellow said. Another said that it was the vice chancellor who had deposited the money in high-interest personal. These children will not have children. He will career. When I walked up to them, they greeted me and shook their heads apologetically about the situation, as if my professor level pension was somehow more important than their messenger level or driver level pensions. They called me Prof, as most people do, as the hawker sitting next to their trays under the tree. Prof, come and buy good bananas. I chatted with Vincent, who had been our driver when I was faculty dean in the 80s. No pension for 3 years, Prof, he said. This is why people retire and die. Oh, joker. I said, although he, of course, did not need me to tell him how terrible it was. How is Niru, Prof? I trust she is well in America. He always asks about our daughter. He often dropped my wife, Ebere, and me to visit her at the College of Medicine in Enugu. I remember that when Ebere died, he came with his relative from Ghana and gave a touching, if rather long, speech about how well Ebere had treated him when he was our driver, how she gave him our daughter's old clothes for his children. Niru is well, I said. Please greet her for me when she calls, Prof. I will. He talked for a while longer about our being a country that has not learned to say thank you, about the students in the hostel not paying him on time for mending their shoes. But it was his other staple that held my attention. If not
Are we reading French now? We started well. What's happening? Yeah, let's go back to where we have mixed up.
He told suddenly, as if just about to pierce the wrinkled skin of his neck and pop out. Vincent is younger than I am, perhaps in his late 60s, but he looks older. He has little hair left. I quite remember his instant chatter while he drove me to work in those days. I remember too that he was fond of reading my newspapers, a practice I did not encourage. Prof, won't you buy us banana? Hunger is killing us. One of the men gathered under the flame tree said. He had a familiar face. I think he was my next door neighbor, Professor Ingeres Gardiner. His tone had a half teasing, half serious quality, but I bought groundnuts and a bunch of bananas for them. Although what all those men really needed was some moisturizer. Their faces and arms looked like ash. It is almost March, but the Harmattan season is still very much here. The dry winds, the crackling static on my clothes, the fine dust on my eyelashes. I applied more lotion than usual today and petroleum jelly on my lips, but still the dryness made my palms and face feel tight. Ebere used to tease me about the moisturizing properly, especially in the Harmattan and sometimes after I had my morning bath. She would slowly rub her lotion on my arms, my legs, my back. We have to take care of this lovely skin, she would say with that playful laughter of hers. She always said my complexion had been the trait that sustained her. Since I did not have any money like all those other students who had true to her flat on Elias Avenue in 1961. Seamless, she called my complexion. I saw nothing especially distinctive in my dark amber tone, but I did not have to breathe a little with the passing years. With the various massaging hands. Thank you, Prof. The men said and then began to mock one another about who would do the diving. I stood around and listened to their talk. I was aware that they spoke more because I was there. Carpentry was not going well. Children were ill. More money lender troubles. They laughed often. Of course they nursed resentment, as they well should, but it has somehow managed to leave their spirits whole. I often wonder whether I would be like them if I did not have money saved from my appointments in the Federal Office of Statistics and if you would not insist on sending me dollars that I did not need. I doubt it. I would probably have hatched up like a tortoise in its shell and let my dignity be whittled away.
Okay, up to there. You can see that is almost a consistent episode. The next one will be a different one. So we go back to the first page of that story and analyze what is happening. So what do we see on page, is it 57? Anything you can share with the class? Remember we are actually listening to the story from the narrator who is part of the audience, observing at the same time talking about himself and life around Nigeria. So what do we see on page 57? Page 57. Yes.
Professor saw in a man he usually had died for himself.
So there are people sometimes we are told they died or we think they died. And of course, for those of you who know Nigeria, Nigeria has been at civil war for some time. In fact, even currently there has been a lot of strife going on with Boko Haram and those other insurgency groups over land and so many other conflicts and religious feuds. But in past, there was a conflict over oil. After the oil deposits were discovered, then there was a critical war that went on and people had to migrate. That's why a lot of Nigerians are in America, because when war erupts in a country, it creates a situation of eviction. and people have to move to other nations, especially overseas, to survive. So we see that Ikena Okoro is actually a fellow professor to the current narrator, and he thought he died during a given moment. Of course, we are going to get the details about why he thought so later in the next episode. So he sees him and he wonders, why is he seeing such a person that is so much like somebody who died long ago? Now, what is he supposed to do according to the custom of his people? Yes. So he's supposed to bend, pick sand, and throw to him, because if it's a ghost, that is a custom they believe in doing. Now he doesn't do it. Why doesn't he do it? Yes?
Because he's a professor and a teacher of mathematics that we believe more in science.
So what do we call that? If there is a practice your people do, for example, there are so many people who believe maybe you wake up in the morning, if you are crossing, you are going your way and you see a cat crossing something, so many other things that people believe. If you don't believe in them, how do you call that in literature? How do you call that? If you are not attached to your culture or even your people or their ways, you do things differently. Yes? Yeah? Not really modernization. It's alienation. Huh? And there is a question that comes for this story on alienation. The fact that sometimes we distance ourselves from our culture because of education or staying away from them. I think we discussed that at some point when we were talking about fathers of nations, and that was Tahir. We talked about alienation, the fact that he was not so much touched to what people are doing within Libya when he hated the president. What else do we see there? Yes.
The professor had gone to the corporate ground of the university bursary to ask for his pension, but he was told that the money had not come in.
Yeah, so unlike TSC or other institutions where we go for our pensions in a different, institution, for them they go back to the university where you taught and you file for your pension. So he goes for the pension and it's not there, it's not ready. Now on the next page, where is this pension? Why is the pension not ready for the workers, and not just the professors, but even the workers who are at the low level? Why is there no pension for them? Because you are supposed to retire, and maybe after 6 months, the highest number of months, they are supposed to give you a pension. But why is it not there? Yes. So how do we call that? Corruption. At the same time, there is some sort of selfishness, right? Yeah, because if people are supposed to retire, get their money, it's supposed to be there. There's no way you are supposed to actually squander money meant for other people. Any other? Yeah.
Another person, another said it was the vice chancellor who had deposited the money in a high-interest personal account.
Yeah, vice chancellor. Vice chancellor is majorly, they are the ones who run universities than even the person above them. So he has decided that he picks that money and produces interest over that, and therefore he is making it. Like, I don't know if you have heard this, I don't know even why one would think of increasing retirement age. Like in Kenya, I now hear they want to increase the retirement age from 60 to 62. And the reason they are doing that is possibly they have squandered that money to whatever we are seeing around, people being dished with money all over the place for a political impression or something. Because why would you force someone to retire at 62? 60, you're already old enough. You should go do something else for your life and rest. You can't work all your life. So if people are doing that, the insinuation is that there is money that has been squandered. In fact, over the holiday, I don't know when you are having the holiday and the exams were being marked. So teachers striking during marking, right? Yes. Again, money that is meant for marking is normally set aside. There is a budget for that. But when it comes to that exercise is done, somebody has placed money either in a fixed account to generate interest for themselves before returning that money to those who are supposed to have it, or something like that. That's a sort of corruption and selfishness on the part of the Vice Chancellor and also the, who is the other? Education what? Minister. Yeah. Any other thing there? Page 58, yeah.
The people called the vice chancellor saying that he will die of diarrhea and his children will not have children.
So obviously when somebody does something that irritates you, you loathe them, you will curse them, you will say lots of things about them, because again, I want you to just look at the kind of life those people are living right there, from Vincent to the rest of the people who are sitting under that tree. What kind of experience are they going through? Then you can imagine, will they be happy smiling around? So let's check on that. Or maybe share more things that are coming out on the page. I saw a hand at the back, I don't know, someone there. Anything else that is coming out on that page? Yes?
The people say that Papa is killing them. And they wanted the professor to buy bananas.
Yeah, obviously, if your pension has not been paid, you are not on salary, and a country that has just experienced war, automatically people face a hunger because maybe plans have been ruined. The economy generally is derailed. So there is no way you have a way to survive. You only, sometimes you long for help from abroad or from that pension that you will receive. Now, these ones, their pension has been squandered. At the same time, the economy is poor because war eats into people's pockets and the economy of a country. So they are there, they don't have food, they have to beg for whatever they see around. So there is that problem there. Any other situation? Yes.
Vincent said that she has not been given his pension for 3 years. And then he said that's why people retire and die.
So he has been going for pension for 3 years. You can imagine 3 years. You've retired, you don't have maybe a basis. And that's why even when you are working, you are not supposed to rely only on the salary. You are supposed to build a foundation for yourself. Either build rental houses that will be compensating monthly, or invest in farming of canes, farming of something, depending on where you come from, and maybe something else. So that you are not foolishly working, but at the same time, once you retire or something happens at work, you can't survive. So it becomes a problem. So you realize that those workers actually have been in a very dire situation. 3 years. You go to that university, no one is giving you an answer. You wait for that pension, it's not coming. So you keep going, coming, and there is no solution. So it causes a lot of torture and suffering to the people. As you can see, Vincent used to work in that university. He has not been compensated for the last 3 years. So his situation is even at a very critical moment. Any other? Yes. Who is Nkiru? The daughter to the professor who is narrating. And of course, we'll be knowing his name just very soon. We are going to see in the next episode. So Nkiru is used to study at what? Yeah. And after that, now, of course, because Vincent used to drive them to places, that is why he's so much attached to them and understands something to do with the family, and asks about Nkiru. And we will know where Nkiru is again, I think somewhere after 2 pages. Then, is there something else? Something else maybe? Yes, yeah.
The professor remembered the happiest moment that he had with his wife before she died.
There was that love and passion within the family. You can actually see Ebere was the wife to the professor, right? Yes. And we are being told that she used to really fancy the husband and even encourage him to take care of his skin. Many men don't take care of their skin. If you look around the hands or even the whatever. Some of them don't take good care of the skin. They need someone to remind them of that. So you see, Bere used to do that, and that habit has now taken over. Even currently, now the professor can compare himself to the rest of the workers. He says they are now very dry, and what else? He says their skin is dry like ash. And what else did he say? Yeah? There's the cracking of? The lips have cracked. Yeah, because they're exposed to maybe a lot of heat, they are not taking water, they are not applying oil. That one has affected them. Maybe it's out of giving up, because sometimes disillusionment makes us not really want to try and just give up with life and do as it is. So we see that after they borrow from Professor, what does Professor do for them? He buys nuts and bananas. Of course, in Nigeria, nuts are very important. It's part of, apart from cola nuts, we have nuts which are very important for them. So when someone offers you that, it's like an honor to you. Then page 39, what do we see? From that part we have read. Page 39. Yes?
The man started mocking one another about who would divide the bananas among them.
So we see them mocking amongst each other. And then after that, what do we say? He realizes that most of them have resentment. They don't like, there is a time when somebody feels like they would rather be dead than alive because of the situation maybe they're experiencing. And then there is something there. He says that he would be in the same situation if not what? If not for Nkiru, who is trying to send him what to keep him up, and also he had also saved some money after having served in the federal office, so that saving was keeping him. So he's only lucky because of that. However, if he did not have those two options, he would be also suffering. Let's now proceed from that other section.
Finally, I said goodbye to them and walked towards my car. Parked near the whistling pine trees that shade the faculty of education from the backside. That was when I saw Ikena Okoro. He called out to me fast, James Moe, is this you? He stood with his mouth open and I could see that his teeth are still complete. I lost one last year. I have refused to have what you work done. But I still felt rather sore at Ikena's usage. Ikena Okoro. I said in a tentative way to suggest something that cannot be. The coming to life of a man who died 37 years ago. Yes, Ikena came closer. And certainly, we shook hands and then hugged briefly. We had not been good friends, Ikena and I. I knew him fairly well in those days only because everyone knew him fairly well. It was he who, when the new vice chancellor, a Nigerian man raised in England, announced that all lecturers must wear ties to class, had definitely continued to wear his brightly colored tunics. It was he who mounted the podium at the staff club and spoke until he was hoarse about pensioning the government, about supporting better conditions for the non-academic staff. He was in sociology, and although many of us in the proper science thought that his social sciences could those who had too much time on their hands and brought dreams of unreadable books. We saw Ikena differently. We forgave his supermotor style and did not discuss his pamphlets and rather admired the elegant aspiration with which they blazed through issues. His fearlessness convinced us. He is still a shrunken man with frog-like eyes and light skin, which has now become discolored, dotted with brown-edged spots. One had of him in those days and then struggled to hide the disappointment upon seeing him, because the depth of his rhetoric somehow demanded good looks. But then, my people say that a famous animal does not always fill the hunter's basket. You are alive, I asked. I was quite shaken. My family and I saw him on the day he died, July 6, 1967, the day we evacuated Nsukka in a hurry, with the sun a strange fiery red in the sky and nearby the boom boom of shelling of federal soldiers to advance. We were in my Impala. The militia waved us through the campus gates and shouted that the show was worried, that the vandals, as we call the federal soldiers, in a matter of days and we could come back. The local villagers, the same ones who had picked through lecturers dustbin for food after the war, were walking along, hundreds of them, women with boxes on their heads and babies tied on their backs, barefoot children carrying bundles, men dragging bicycles, holding yams. I remember that Ebere was consoling our daughter, Zeke, about the doll left behind in our waist. When we saw Ikena's green Kadett, he was driving the opposite way, back onto campus. I sounded the horn and stopped. You can, I called, but he waved and said, I have to get some manuscripts. Or maybe he said, I have to get some material. I thought it rather foolhardy of him to go back in, since the shelling sounded close and our troops would drive the vandals back in our ways of true anyway. But I was also full of a sense of our collective invisibility, of the justness of the brief and close to us, so I did not think much more of it until we heard that Nsukka fell on the very day it evacuated and the campus was occupied. The bearer of the news, a relative of Professor Ezekiel, also told us that two lecturers had been killed. One of them had argued with the federal soldiers before he was shot. We did not need to be told this was Ikena.
Okay, we'll proceed in the next lesson. Yeah.
Can you please mark for me this paper? And this one.
Yeah. This one. One. Sorry. Two.
This one.